and welcome back to another episode of PG's Minecraft command tutorial. Today we're going to talk about JSON text. JSON text is how Minecraft parses and stores text. So, because it's how Minecraft actually reads text, we're actually going to be able to use it to do some really cool things. Make the text look better and just even behave differently. With that, let's get started. So we're mainly going to be focusing on the tell raw command. I'll show you the syntax tell raw, and then choose who it says it to. We'll do A for now. We're mostly going to be focusing on the tell raw command, but there are actually a few commands that have a JSON text aspect to it. So the title command is another one, and we've actually talked about a few others, like the scoreboard command. When you're working with teams, you can change how the teams look using JSON text. And so in a few of these, not all of the things we're going to talk about today are available. But just know that you can use a lot of especially the text formatting commands or the text formatting from JSON in a lot of different ways. So the first thing is JSON is essentially made up of two things. It's made up of keys, and it's made up of what the keys actually are, their values. So if we type in this and we go, first key we're going to look at is text. Then we put our colon here to denote this is the value. We put everything is going to be in these quotation marks here. And then we're going to type out what we want our text to be. Hello world. Look at that, it tells everybody hello world. The cool thing about JSON text, though, is that you don't have to use regular text, though. So, for instance, if I do /tell raw and A, and I say I'm going to be putting in some text here, well, there's these things called escape sequences in JSON text. And so basically, you're telling the parser that you're going to be using something that you don't want to be literally what it is. So for instance, if you know any Unicode, I'll actually link a Unicode chart in my description if you want to take a look at a few of the symbols you can do. What you do is you do /u for Unicode, and then you type in the code you want. And look at that, I got pi. So maybe I need to tell somebody the area or the circumference of a circle. What I can do is I just type in the text, and I will say it is the radius times that, and I'll do 2 times the radius times pi. And then I have that symbol for pi there now. So it doesn't literally read off the exact Unicode code that I put in there. It reads it off and translates it and puts it into the symbol itself. Again, I'll link the description so you can take a look at a few of the different symbols and stuff that you can actually use for that. There are two other important escape sequences to know, and you'll notice that when I'm typing them in, I'm using the other slash, the backslash, rather than the forward slash. So we'll do text again, and we'll do these, and then we'll say hello. And then we'll just, if you do /n, that's going to be a new line. So we'll say hello. How is it going? And you see they get put on different lines. Now, you see I put this space here. That's because it literally just reads this, and then it reads my space here. So for it to actually not be on, to not have that space there, I have to type it like that, and then I'll move it directly to the side like that. See, it reads things very literally, so if you have a /n, don't put spaces around it, so there's actually technically a space here, that doesn't matter. So if I do this, it should give us the same result, and look at that, it does. So, just keep in mind with escape sequences, it reads them very literally, like as soon as you see the slash, it'll just read like the next character, or whatever, until the code actually ends, and then it just continues literally. Keeping white space and all of that. The final escape character we're going to talk about, get our tell raw command up, is I'm going to show you how to nest quotation marks. So we have our text, and we have our value, and we'll say he said. Got to be grammatically correct. Comma there. Hello. And period. So you'll see it doesn't accept this because we've got these quotation marks here. And as you've been seeing earlier, we use these quotation marks to separate what the key and the values are. We put those in quotation marks. So obviously it's going to be confused when parsing this, because it's like, hey, you know, you have quotation marks all over the place. So then how do you tell it that these quotation marks are just things that you want it to read off, rather than being something that actually delineate a different value? So then we put our backslash here, and put our backslash here, make them escape characters, and look at that, it keeps them as quotation marks and renders them rather than cutting them off. The next key we're going to talk about is the translation key. So, talking about JSON, it's good to know the hierarchy or the precedence of what the keys do. So the precedence goes text, translate, score, selector, keybind. We'll talk about all of these. But basically what that means, if they are on the same level, then it chooses the one with the higher precedence. And text is always going to have the higher precedence. Well, after that comes translate. So translate works a lot like text, except it sends the input through the translation parser. This is going to act differently if you put in a language key versus just putting in regular text. But it can be useful as well. And specifically, some of the things that it can be useful with as well is conversion flags. So what you can do is you can put in a placeholder, and by putting in a placeholder, you can tell it to essentially hold a place for some other string of characters that we're going to talk about. So do / translate, and you see, if I do, this is one of the language keys, so to title. If I do that, then it says back to title screen. It translates that. If I don't put in that, if I just say hello world, can't spell. Yeah, so then it just says hello world. But I can use this to say hello, and then I do S, and now I have to tell it what that placeholder is going to be. And so I do that by adding a with statement. So I do with, and now you see I put brackets here. Well, these brackets are because it has to be an array. So if I tell it creeper, you see it creates the placeholder, and then it changes it to whatever this is in this with. Now this is an array, which means that you can actually put multiple things in here. So if I go comma, excuse me, this, say creeper, man, then it just does the first one, because we're just doing, it only takes the first thing in these. But it is an array, which means it can hold multiple things, and we'll see how to select the multiple things. So how you read the different parts of an array is you just use the same thing, %s, but you have this $, and then you have which one you want to read. So for instance, if I do 1, it'll say creeper, and if I put 2 here, it will read man. This is not like normal indexing where you start at 0, this indexing starts at 1, so just keep that in mind. This is the first element of this array, and this is the second element of this array. So the next key is then we do is score. So we do score, and so this part, score has many different parts, and so what we're going to do is we're going to essentially nest them in this in the second curly brackets. So we have name, and that's going to be the name of who we want to tell. And so this is going to be essentially a target selector. So we have the name. If we want to do for at A, we'll do that. Then we'll type in the actual objective. And you saw I typed in the capital O there. These keys are case sensitive, so make sure you are making them lowercase when they need to be and uppercase when they need to be. Do objective, and we'll do, I believe it's still called health, is the objective. And you see it lists all of the health. I have the score health of 10. And so you can do at A, you can do, if you do at P, it'll select the nearest person. I'm the only person on, so these aren't going to change right now. If you do star, it's essentially at S, it'll do yourself. And you see it's listed off 10 all the times. If there was more scores, you could do it like that. If there were more people, it would list them all off. Or if you just wanted it to list it for every single person, then you do this little star, and it would do essentially the score. It would show every person their own score if you did at A. So then you can also do tell raw. The next key is at A is selector, and basically that's just a target selector. At A lists off all the players. At P lists off the nearest player. At E will list off all the entities, and you see it lists off all of the entities, and you can read about them. You see it says like their type and their name and stuff. Same here, name, type, yeah, that sort of thing. The final key, if we do tell raw, that we're going to take a look at is keybind. So with this, it will specifically show off a keybind. So if I do key dot inventory, I believe, it shows me the key I have bound to that. And then if I do key dot drop, see, I have my inventory set to K, so I open my inventory with K, and I have my drop key. I'll get something out here. I have it set to K. I know most people have it set to Q, so it will probably say Q for most people, but I have mine set to K, so it says K, K for that one. So now we have all these text components. Well, now we can talk about how to actually change what they look like a little bit. So you've seen me probably do at least a little bit of this before, but what we can do is we go text, and we go hello world. And then we put our comma here to say that we're going to be doing something else. And we'll type in color, give it that. And you can type in any valid Minecraft color, which there's like 16 of them. So we do like red, and you see it shows it in red. We do blue, it shows it in blue. Green is one. I know, I think dark green is one. Oh, see, dark green is one. So any of the colors that you can use to like make a team color, you can also use here. In addition to color, you can also make it bold. This is the one that I use a lot when showing off JSON text before, right? And basically, this is just a Boolean value. So if you set it to true, then it makes it bold. If you set it to false, it sets it to just regular text. And you see color defaults to white, and bold defaults to false. Yeah, so that's good to know that like in default it will try to do regular text, but you can always set these things to true if you want to. And now all the things coming after are also Boolean values. So if we have, we'll set them to true for now because we're going to want to actually see them. True, and we will type in italics. Italic. Yep, italic. Oh, make sure this is not capitalized. And you see it makes it italic. Type in underline. Oops. underlined, excuse me. Yep, underlined. See, it underlines it. Strike through. You can make it strike through text. Make sure I'm spelling this correctly. It's all. So yep, it's all strike through, and then finally obfuscated. So this one's a little bit strange, but basically it just like chooses a bunch of obfuscated. Yeah, see, it just chooses a bunch of random characters to replace like these characters, and we'll just randomly select them and keep it going. Basically, it hides the text. Creates an interesting effect, though. Can be pretty cool to work with. And so I kept all of these in the default color, but you can also mix and match these and go color. Oops. Make sure you do this color blue, and now it just makes the text blue. So you can combine these as well. So those are the ways to make text look different. There's also a few ways to make text do things. So the first one we'll look at is insertion. And so how insertion works is basically you have your text component here. So we'll do text, and we'll do hello, and so then we'll do our normal insertion. Make sure I get this correct here. So it's insertion. Yep. And so you can make, when somebody right-click or shift-clicks on the text, it will do something. It'll insert whatever you put into this insertion into their chat window. So then you can make it say, /say hello. And so when you say that, and you come over here, and you shift-click on it, you see it inserts the say hello there, and then when you hit enter, it'll say hello there. Yeah, so insertion you can use to, if you need somebody to shift-click on some text, it will actually do something. So the next one we're going to look at, tell raw, and so we'll do our text component here, text, and we'll say run command when clicked, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it, we're going to be using the click event. Make sure I spelled that correctly. Get that right. Click. Oop, it looks like this E is capitalized. Oops. Click event. Making sure I'm getting this syntax correct. Click event. And then it looks like this is a the click event is similar to the other command we talked about, where you have to put it, you have to nest something inside of it. So then we have to tell it what happens, so we'll tell it the action. And so I want this action to run a command, so we'll say run command, and then we will tell it what that command is. Value. Tell it what exactly we want it to run, and we want this to slash give it a Minecraft diamond. I believe I got that correct. And when I click it, it gives me a diamond. And it just does that every time the command is clicked. Eventually we'll see how to use that to run different commands, and you can actually run functions from it, which is going to be really, really cool. So basically the onClick command has a few different actions you can do. You can open a URL or open a file too. So if you have, you can make some text that opens a URL or a file. Suggest a command rather than just straight up running the command. And if you're in a book, you can make it also change page, which can be useful so that people don't have to flip through all the different pages. If you've got a really long book, you can make like jumps to different pages. Done that once or twice. It's pretty useful. So we have click events. We also have hover events. So we can do tell raw at a text hover over this, and then we will do very similar. We'll do, oops, not that. We gotta make sure it's comma. We'll do hover event, and we will do, make sure it does that, make sure I'm getting this correct, it's action, and we want this action to be show text, so we will do show text, and now what do we actually want this text to be? Value. Yep, so we want this to say hello world, sort of placeholder, and you see when I do this, and I hover over it, it says hello world. So you can make hover text that when you hover over do things. You can make it show an achievement, you can make it show an item, you can make it show an entity. The next thing I want to talk about is the extra text. So I do tell raw a have some text here, and I have it say hello, and I make it blue. Oops, gotta make sure I tell it that the color is blue. So color, color is blue. Then I want a little bit added on, so what I can do is I type in extra, and I have the extra like that. Oops. An extra is an array as well, so I can do extra. And then I have it say, I have another text component in here, text. And this I just want to say world, but I want this text to be bold. Make sure I get the syntax correct. Bold, and I want this to be set to true. Well, then you see, I should probably add a space in here, so I'll add a space like right there. There we go. So now there's a space. You can see that it, basically what it does is it appends whatever text is in here, and I can add more stuff because there's an array here, right? So I can add to this, but basically it adds this extra text, but it also inherits whatever the stuff is for this text part, but then it adds onto it if you want to add something different here. So I made just the world part bold rather than hello world. I made just part of it bold. Yeah, so you can separate like text elements out and do different things to them, but keep like some things completely the same for both of them. So like it's still all blue. This color blue is inherited by this part as well, but it only this part is bold because we have the bold being set to only this text element. Also, you've been seeing me type in all every single time I do this. I have to type in a I have to type in the text part. Well, if I just start off with an array, then I don't really have to put the text elements. What I can do is I can just type in hello world. And so I won't necessarily get the same options, but it can be a little bit faster when doing that. And then I can put in more stuff. So I'll do how is it? And you see it just kind of like puts it all together like that. So yeah, if I can do text like this, and then again, this is an array, so it's technically multiple elements. What I can do is I go like this, and I go text hello, hello, and then I can do like this and go and have different text. Text world, and so again, that's another way that I can do different attributes to different lines of text, and I don't even need to make them text elements because it's in an array. So I can take this and say how is it, and so I can assign things to this stuff if I need to, but leave this to be the same. And I'll do this just to make sure that nothing gets, yeah, so I have the same output here as I did here, but now I've added it so that I can easily come in and say, for instance, color red, and I can come over here and say italic. Oops, that's not how you spell italic. And true. And you see like how it inherits things is going to be different. So this is going to be like the parent, and it makes all of this text italic. So I know JSON text can be a little bit confusing. It's definitely like learning the syntax can be kind of tricky. It's useful for making text that does things, though, so it can be useful to learn, especially in Minecraft. So I'm actually going to leave a few links to different tutorials and stuff that helped me more or less understand some of this stuff, and hopefully you'll find it useful as well. So look out for that in the description. I want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.